light of creation still hovered over the earth. Yet something stirred within the shadows. The earth was perfect, pristine. The man walked with the Almighty. But with just a whisper, a choice was made, and everything changed forever. When the man fell, the whole world crumbled with him. The angels broke their oath. Giants trampled upon mankind. Corruption spread like wildfire, and the earth groaned beneath the weight of sin. Applause, and then the Lord spoke. And when the Lord spoke, creation trembled. This is the story of the world before the flood, when nearly all was destroyed. In the beginning, the world was a place of unimaginable splendor. The newly formed earth knew no pain, no war, nor death. Mountains rose majestic and proud. The seas danced with the wind, and the sky sang its song. The animals lived in harmony, and the breeze in the garden carried the fragrance of eternity. God walked with man. It was the dawn of existence. Adam gazed upon the radiant morning light filtering through the leaves of the Garden of Eden. Eve smiled as she beheld the creatures, gathered trustingly around her. All of this was given to us, she whispered with tearful eyes. Adam replied with reverence. We were not only created, we were loved. Yet a new sound echoed among the trees, the whisper of doubt. The serpent, beautiful and cunning, sparked the first thought to escape. And then the choice came. That choice led to the fall. Eden, once a home, became a memory. Adam and Eve left the Garden of Eden with shame and longing. A flaming sword was set at the entrance, and with it came the division between heaven and earth. When Eve gave birth to her first son, Cain, she saw tears flow and blood pour from her womb. This was the beginning of humanity, but also the beginning of sorrow. Cain grew up proud and distant. Abel, his brother, was humble and devoted. To the Lord, I will offer my best sheep, Abel said. Cain bitterly replied, the fruit of the earth is valuable as well. When God accepted Abel's offering but rejected Cain's, envy turned to poison, and the field became a grave. The blood of the righteous cried out from the earth, and the face of the Lord was hidden for a moment. Cain, now a fugitive, left behind his mother's gaze and his father's silence. But life went on. Seth was born, and with him a lineage that continually sought the Creator. Humanity lived for many centuries, life and death like waves upon the ocean of time. Knowledge increased. Tents were erected, animals were tamed, metals shaped, melodies were sung on the first harps and flutes. Civilization arose swiftly. Fertile plains became homes, tribes became cities. Man named the winds, carved images, and built altars. Yet few called upon the name of the Lord. Among them appeared one named Lamech, descendant of Cain, whose words were harsh and whose hands were violent. I have killed a man for wounding me. If Cain's mark demands vengeance sevenfold, then my mark shall demand 77-fold. It was an age of pioneers, but also of pride. Jabal, father of those who dwell in tents and tend livestock. Jubal, master of melody, who fashioned flutes from bones and harps from strings of plants. Tubal-Cain, the blacksmith, forged spears and swords from newly discovered metals. Art and war were born together. Beauty and destruction walked hand in hand. Cities grew. Leaders became kings. Palaces of rough stone rose in the valleys. Festivals, sacrifices, and altars dominated daily life. Yet above it all, The Lord saw the growing distance between himself and mankind. Faith gave way to power. The quest for holiness was replaced by self-exaltation. But not all was lost. In the days of Enoch, people once again began to call upon the Lord. There remained hope. Amidst the growing corruption, the spark of faith still burned like glowing embers in the dark. Yet creation bore the burden of mankind's choice. Trees seemed less vibrant, the sky no longer clear, animals more wary, and the earth unstable. And then whispers arose. Ancient tales spoke of beings from heaven, descending to earth, called the Watchers. Their presence inspired both awe and fear. Men called them gods, women called them the Savior. And when he comes, the world will never be the same again. They come from above, yet their gaze is fixed upon the earth. The Watchers, angels entrusted with overseeing humanity, broke the bounds of their mission. Behold how beautiful the daughters of men are. They whispered among themselves, now surrounded by a sacred light tinged with desire. Upon Mount Hermon, they made a covenant. 200 of them vowed never to return unless they took mortal wives, and so they descended. They were received as gods. Their robes gleamed bright. Their voices thundered like storms. Their eyes pierced the soul. Women longed for this. People feared them. And the children born from these unions were no ordinary children. They grew ever stronger, proud and mighty. They were the Nephilim, giants, renowned heroes, the first tyrants. Cities began to build monuments in their honor. Their names were whispered with reverence and dread. Yet something was amiss. They did not age as men do. Their hunger was insatiable. First, they devoured the dead, then the flesh of cattle. When no food remained, they turned against humanity itself. Fertile plains became fields of slaves. The Nephilim demanded tribute in blood. The Watchers, now corrupted, taught sorcery, astrology, enchantments, genetic manipulation, hallucinogenic herbs, and instruments of war. The sky began to darken. Aesel, one of their leaders, taught men how to forge swords, shields, and armor. He taught women how to seduce, to paint their eyes, and to wield the elements. Knowledge is power, and power is control. War became an art. Desire became a religion. Blood flowed upon the stone like wine. Amid this crumbling world, a new breed was born: hybrids, abominations, beasts mingled with men, winged serpents, men with eyes of fire and skin of iron, women whose voices drove men mad. Creation was defiled, and the heavens watched silently, but not all remained silent. A man walked with the Lord. His name was Enoch. Descended from the seven, he rejected the ways of the world. His eyes saw beyond the veil. His dreams bore prophecy. In a vision, he beheld the throne of the Lord and heard, "Go and proclaim the coming judgment." Enoch stood before the crowd and declared loudly, "The Most High sees all. Nothing is hidden. The Watchers will face judgment. The giants will fall. The earth shall be cleansed by waters never before seen." Yet they mocked him, deriding his words, and sought to silence him. Yet Enoch feared no evil. He wrote all things upon scrolls of parchment and stone. His records spoke of gates, the heavens, angelic hosts, and the great day of judgment. One day, Enoch vanished. He was no longer seen among men. It is said the Lord took him himself. His absence deepened the darkness, unbidden and without restraint. The watchers continued. Their deeds. The forests began to wither. The earth trembled. The stars seemed to dim. Nature itself groaned beneath the weight of corruption. The cry of the earth reached the heavens, and the Most High summoned his holy angels. What had transpired could not go on. The watchers would be bound, their offspring destroyed, and the land purified. The archangel Uriel was sent to Enoch, now in the heavens, to deliver the sentence upon the fallen angels. Michael, Raphael, and Gabriel prepared for judgment, but on earth, corruption still spread. Men built towers reaching toward heaven. Women offered their children to the Nephilim in unholy rites. Innocent blood cried out from the ground. And while the watchers taught the art of elemental control, the world blazed with magic, cruelty, and darkness. The night no longer held silence. In the wind, screams were heard. The earth cracked. In the sky, lightning danced. Without thunder, as if all creation knew that something was coming, something dreadful. A long-forgotten judgment promised. From ancient times, and amidst the chaos, a lineage endured. The descendants of Seth, though weakened, still kept the memory of the Creator. They hoped, prayed, and taught their children that not all was lost. Among them was a man quiet, just, and diligent. While others drowned in violence and despair, he walked among the trees and listened to the wind. His name was Noah. Noah tilled the land with calloused hands and a serene countenance. The men mocked him, calling him old-fashioned, a dreamer at heart. Yet Noah held a secret, not meant for mankind. He listened to the voice of the Lord. As he walked through the fields, he felt the presence of the Almighty as a gentle breeze stirring the leaves. His sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, learned from him how to fear the Lord, even amidst the most corrupt generation ever, to live upon the earth. One night, the sky opened. Darkness shimmered with hues humanity had never seen before. A presence surrounded Noah, and a voice like thunder spoke to his soul. The end of all flesh has come before me. The earth is filled with violence. Build yourself an ark of cypress wood. Noah trembled and knelt, Sir. How can this be? And the voice continued, I will measure, and with you I will make my covenant. The next morning, Noah gathered his family and spoke with certainty, the Lord has spoken to me. Judgment will come in the form of water. We must build an ark. The children fell silent, and Shem was the first to say, if the Lord has spoken, we will obey. And so the work began. Wood was hewn. The sound of axes echoed through valleys that had never known rain. The townsfolk laughed aloud as they passed by. Look at that madman who builds a ship where there is no sea. Noah said nothing, sweat drenched his face as he placed each beam. He was driven by faith. Meanwhile, the Nephilim ruled the cities with iron fists. Men were forced to fight for sport. Children endured cruel rites. The gods, now distorted in nature, lived in palaces built by slaves. The light that once shone was replaced by deep darkness. Yet the angels in heaven also acted. Michael was commanded to strike down the Nephilim. With the fury of heaven, he descended like a violent storm, accompanied by armies wielding swords of light. Heaven and earth trembled. The giants fell in dreadful battles. Their voices shook the valleys. The earth opened to swallow. their bodies. The watchers were bound in chains and cast into the abyss, where eternal darkness awaited them. Noah pressed on. The ark grew like a wooden fortress upon the land. 3 decks, hundreds of compartments, a home for the living. The Lord sent the creatures in pairs, guided by an unseen instinct. Lions beside lambs, eagles perched beside doves. The impossible became reality before mankind's eyes, yet it was still not accepted. The feasts continued, the drunken revelry increasing. The name of the Lord became a subject of mockery. Noah preached and hammered, "Repent, there is still time." Laughter was the only response. Women danced around fires. Men sang hymns of worship to the Nephilim. Even as the heavens foretold chaos, signs began to appear. The moon turned blood red. Wild beasts fled the forests. The country winds blew east and west at once. Light rain fell where none had ever seen rain before. The earth trembled beneath their feet, yet the hearts of men remained. The Lord spoke again, "Enter the ark with your household, for I have found you righteous in this generation." Noah quietly gathered his family. One by one, they entered the great ark. Finally, he looked toward the horizon. A shout echoed from afar, "O coward, come celebrate with us." Noah answered only with a pained gaze. Then the supernatural occurred. The ark's door closed by itself. A rumble shook the valley. The birds fell silent. A lone bird flew silently across the sky. Thunder rolled, yet no rain fell. Noah was silent inside the ark, holding his breath. The wooden boards creaked softly. Now, a strange silence enveloped the space. People still laughed, but their eyes revealed doubt. "Where is the prophet's flood?" they asked one another. But the sky no longer smiled, and the first drops, heavy and slow, touched the parched earth. The first drop fell upon the dry dust as a warning, then another, and another. The people stood still, silent. Children ran, seeking shelter. Men watched the sky with suspicion. The wind grew fierce. Clouds twisted into shapes like enormous eyes. Then, as though the sky was torn open, the gates of heaven opened, and water poured down fiercely. This was no ordinary rain. It was a torrent, thick and overwhelming, seemingly unleashed in wrath. Lightning flashed across the sky like spears. The earth trembled, and from its depths, fierce jets of water began to burst forth, cracking the ground into deep veins, as if creation itself were being undone. Inside the ark, Noah prayed silently. The wood shook but remained steadfast. The animals grew restless, roaring and howling in despair. Drops of water became waves. Puddles turned into rivers. Roads vanished. Houses collapsed. Cities were swallowed whole. Outside the ark, panic began. The mockers fled in desperation. "Noah, open the door, let us in," they shouted, banging on the thick wooden walls. But the door had been sealed by the Lord himself. No human force could open it. "Please forgive us. Now we believe." But it was too late. The water rose relentlessly. Ancient trees fell like fragile branches. Towers built to honor the Nephilim crumbled like sand. Mountains began to disappear beneath the floodwaters. The cries of men mingled with the roar of the waters and the thunder of divine wrath. The giants once deemed divine struggled to resist. With brutal blows, they tried to hold back the flood, but the waters engulfed all. One of them roared in despair, We are eternal." Then the ocean swallowed him, extinguishing his pride forever. The altars of the watchers were torn from the earth. Statues fell. Inscriptions faded. Earthly knowledge, lust, sorcery, all were submerged. The land was washed away by tears and wrath. The justice of the Lord, ignored through many generations, now descended like an avalanche inside the ark. Noah held his wife tightly. Japheth gripped his shoulder firmly. Shem looked up to the ceiling, whispering, "Father, the Lord has kept his promise." "His word," Noah replied with a choking voice. "Yes, but my heart aches for them." Outside, the sound of destruction was deafening. For 40 days and 40 nights, the waters never ceased. Each day the waters rose higher. Each night the darkness grew thicker. Thunder roared like beasts in the heavens. Lightning cut across the sky like swords in battle. The once vibrant land seemed to mourn. No cities remained. No music or celebration. The watchers were chained deep in the darkness. The Nephilim lay in chaos below. Humanity was reduced to a single family, a remnant surrounded by forests, faith, and hope. The waters rose above even. The highest mountains, Ararat, Sinai, all peaks were swallowed, and silence cloaked the world. No more cries, no more war. Only the wind, the rain, and the ark drifting through the void inside. Day blended with night. The animals' sounds filled the space, yet the silence among men was deeper still. Time seemed to stand still. "How many will survive?" Ham whispered. Noah answered, "No one remains." And a tear rolled down her cheek. On the water floated logs, torn garments, remnants of buildings. This was the graveyard of the old world. What was once a dominion now lay in ruins. Eagles no longer soared. Wild beasts lay motionless. The pride of man had sunk, yet the Lord had not forgotten his promise. Among the clouds, light still shone. Angels gazed at the ark with reverence. What remained inside was not merely flesh. It was hope for a new beginning. Then the waters began to temper their fury. The roar of rain softened into whispers. The thunder faded into distance. Clouds began to disperse. And beyond, a ray of sunlight pierced the mist, the first light after many days. Though submerged, the earth endured. The ark floated solemnly, a witness between two worlds. The old world had been judged, and now a new era was born upon the waters. Yet patience was still required. The sun timidly reappeared over a silent world, where Noah's ark glided solemnly across the water-covered earth. Veiled in darkness and the murmur of waves, Noah held firm in faith as days passed. When the rain ceased, the sky cleared, and a fresh breeze filled the ark. Noah released a raven, then a dove, which brought back an olive branch, a sign of hope. With reverence, Noah gave thanks to the Lord. The waters receded, the mountains appeared, and the ark came to rest on Mount Ararat. Then the Lord spoke, "Come forth from the ark and be fruitful." The ark's door opened. Light flooded in like a blessing. The animals were freed. Finally, Noah stepped onto the earth and quietly built an altar to the Lord God, the judge, yet also the restorer of. A sacrifice was offered up to the heavens, and the Lord promised, "I will never again destroy all flesh. As long as the earth remains, there will be sowing and reaping. The sign of this covenant is a radiant rainbow in the sky. And Jah asked, "Is that a covenant?" "Yes, between the heavens and the earth." Though the earth was wounded, it blossomed again. New shoots sprouted among the wet stones, birds sang, rivers opened new paths. Life began anew. Noah's sons labored, their wives gathered roots. The cold nights now brought stories and hope. Noah knew that evil still dwelled within the hearts of men, yet he also knew that the love of the Lord was greater. The ancient world, corrupted by giants and fallen angels, was buried beneath the waters. A new world was being born, and with it, an eternal truth. The earth may be cleansed, but the human heart still needs transformation.